After defeating their greatest enemy and going their separate ways, the Ninja Turtles must unite once again to face an ancient and immortal threat. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, from 2007. On the rooftops of New York, 4 warriors fight for justice. They are the Ninja Turtles Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello and their leader, Leonardo. Together, they defeat their greatest rival, the Shredder, head of the criminal organization, the Foot Clan. However, a new threat arises, this time from the past. 3,000 years ago, a warrior king called Yaudel gathered an army to dominate all the nations of the world. In the meantime, he found out about the stars of Kikon, a constellation which, when the stars align in the sky, opens the portal to a secret world. During one of his battles, Yaudel saw the stars align and the portal opened before him. The energy that passed through the passage made the warrior king immortal, but his 4 generals were turned to stone. To make matters worse, 13 powerful monsters came out of the passage and wiped out Yaudel's army. Legend has it that they have continued to torment mankind ever since, while the immortal king disappeared after that day. 3,000 years later, in present times, a military group arrives in a humble village in Central America. They take all the people's wealth and food and leave in a jeep. However, while crossing the forest, they come across a tree blocking the way. One of the soldiers gets out of the jeep to remove it, but he is suddenly pulled away by someone. At that moment, another soldier grabs his gun and goes to investigate what has happened, but is pulled by a rope to the top of the trees and, seconds later, is knocked to the ground, unconscious. The jeep driver gets scared and runs away, but the leader of the group pulls out his machete and orders whoever is doing all this to come out. Just then, a warrior appears behind him, hiding among the leaves, which frightens the colonel. He tries to flee through the forest, but falls off a hill into the woods. The man quickly gets up, but in front of him, a ninja warrior appears and draws his sword. The colonel is undeterred and attacks him with his machete. Hours later, the military jeep is sent back to the village, along with all the supplies that were stolen from the people. They were returned by the ninja warrior, who is known in the region as the Ghost of the Jungle. After the incident, a reporter appears on the scene and investigates the legend of the jungle ghost, believing him to be an old friend of hers. While exploring the forest, she falls into a cave, but is saved by the ghost, who turns out to be Leonardo. In the cave, the reporter, called April, says she's there to explore artifacts, but when she hears about Leonardo's legend, she goes to find him to tell him that her brothers need his help. She says that since Leonardo disappeared, they no longer fight crime. Donatello has become an IT consultant and Michelangelo dresses up at children's parties. However, unbeknownst to both of them, Raphael continues to fight alone and is known as the Night Watcher. That same night in New York, a group of robbers blow up a bank and steal the money from the vault. As they were about to leave, 2 of the bandits were pulled by chains into a dark alley. Soon afterwards, the Night Watcher attacks the leader with the chain and strikes the other henchman who was armed. There is only one criminal left and he aims his gun, but instead of shooting, the man runs away in fear and is chased by Raphael. Minutes later, the police arrive at the scene of the crime to investigate. There, they find the bandits bound in chains and soon understand who did it. The next morning, Michelangelo returns from his job as a party entertainer and, on his skateboard, goes through a tunnel in the city sewers to the Turtles' secret hideout. When he gets there, he sees a news program on TV talking about the Night Watcher and gets excited about it. However, Donatello tells him that they should focus on their work and that the time for fighting crime is over. Meanwhile, April returns to New York and calls her boyfriend, vigilante Casey Jones. She asks him to help her get an artifact to her client. When they arrive at the delivery point, Casey accidentally knocks over a Greek vase, which activates the building's security system. With the confusion resolved, the two take the cargo to their client, businessman Max Winters. April opens the box and inside is a statue of a petrified warrior. He is one of the generals who were transformed when Yaudel, now known as Max, opened the portal 3,000 years ago. After April and Casey leave, a group of ninjas from the Foot Clan appear in the room. Winters says he's summoned them because he has a job and needs their help. Later, a thief appears robbing a convenience store. However, the man is caught by 2 chains and pulled to the roof of the building. In front of him, the Night Watcher appears to teach him a lesson, but just then, Casey arrives on the scene and offers to help. Raphael tries to disguise himself, but is soon recognized by his friend, who already knew about his second identity. The two leave the bandit hanging from a pole and talk about Leonardo's disappearance. Meanwhile, Max gathers the 4 statues and uses a mysterious device to awaken them. Hours later, a plane flies towards New York and prepares to land. Just then, Leonardo appears holding one of the wheels and jumps with his hang glider into the sea. The ninja crosses a pipe that leads to the sewer and reaches the turtles' hideout. There, he meets up with Master Splinter, who gives him the mission of bringing his brothers back together as a team. Minutes later, the 4 turtles are together on a rooftop and Leonardo says he's going to train them to fight the Nightwatcher. Raphael doesn't like this, but before he can start arguing, the 4 of them hear a strange noise coming from a building. They go to the site to investigate and find the ninjas of the Foot Clan fighting a giant monster, and the 4 decide to enter the fray. Just then, the leader of the ninjas attacks Leo with her sword, but he just dodges her blows and asks who she works for. However, the ninjas run off straight away and leave it to the turtles to solve the problem. Rafa manages to knock the monster down with a kick, but it counters and throws him away. His brothers try to help him, but the monster does a spin move with its body and they all start to fall off the building. When they reach the ground, the 4 turtles join forces to attack the monster, but realize that behind them are several sharp irons. To make matters worse, pieces of the building fall in front of them, blocking the way. At that moment, the monster tries to flee, but in front of it, Winter's 4 generals approach. The creature tries to attack them, but is easily eliminated by them. Soon after, the turtles return to fight, but when they hear the police siren, they decide to flee through the sewers. Hours later, the clan of ninjas goes to Winter's in search of answers about the monster they faced. But soon afterwards, the petrified warriors show up with the captured monster. Max then explains that he intends to gather all 13 escaped monsters to carry out his plan. Meanwhile, the Ninja Turtles are back in their hideout. Leo and Rafa start arguing about the previous night's failure, but before the fight gets any worse, Master Splinter shows up and they try to cover it up. However, when the Master turns on the television and sees a news report about a disturbance in the city, he soon realizes that his sons have gone to fight crime without his permission. Later that night, the Ninja Clan and the Petrified Warriors begin their search for the 12 missing monsters. They find the first one inside a warehouse and fire tranquilizer darts at it. However, the creature is unaffected and easily knocks down the ninja, but the stone warrior strikes him and the monster falls unconscious. Then another creature appears on top of a subway car, but it is knocked down by one of the generals with his hammer and is taken back. Minutes later, the group captures another monster that was on top of a bridge. The ninjas grab its tentacles and take it back to Winter's base. As the night draws to a close, 10 monsters have been captured and only 3 remain. Across town, April and Casey are spending time together at home, but Raphael shows up and calls his friend up to the roof. There, they find a flying monster and race through the buildings to catch it. When they reach an alley, the pair find the creature being captured by the ninjas. Soon after, the stone statues also show up to finish the job and take the monster away in a truck. Just then, Casey realizes that one of the statues is identical to the one he and April gave to Winters. However, the warriors realize they are being watched by him and fire tranquilizer darts. Raphael tries to protect Casey, but is hit by one of the darts and weakened. With no choice, the two run and hide inside a warehouse. However, one of the stone statues has followed them and strikes the door to force its way in. Fortunately, a police helicopter appears at the same moment and the stone warrior leaves. Out of danger, Casey takes Raphael to safety. Minutes later, the turtles are having dinner with Master Splinter, until they get a call from April and she tells them what has happened. Afterwards, Dawn, Leo and Mikey arrive at her apartment and find Rafa, still alive. Soon after, Dawn finds a piece of rock with strange markings in his brother's shell. April analyzes it and realizes that it has something to do with the legend of King Yaddle. The group also discovers that the legend has something to do with Winters and that he must be responsible for everything. After hearing the whole story, Raphael decides to find the tycoon, but Leonardo tells him that they won't do anything unless Master Splinter gives the order. Rafa gets angry and decides to abandon his brothers to fight alone. Later, the rest of the group gathers at the turtles' hideout to investigate the legend of Yaddle. Donatello discovers that the stars of Kikon will unite again in 24 hours and that if this happens, more monsters will attack New York. The group prepares to stop this threat, but first, Master Splinter warns Leonardo that they will only stand a chance if Raphael returns to the team. Hours later, a small monster appears and attacks a diner. Raphael hears about it on the police radio and goes to the scene. When he gets there, he finds a tiny monster devouring everything in the kitchen and doesn't take it very seriously. However, the creature soon proves to be very strong and bites Raphael's finger, who tries to break free and throws it away. The little monster attacks again and grabs Raphael's face, punching and biting him. The turtle manages to break free from the animal and grabs 2 frying pans from the kitchen. He starts hitting him with the pans, but the monster doesn't give up. Rafa then takes 3 gas bombs and throws them at the animal, which swallows one of them. Suddenly, the gas starts coming out of the monster's mouth, and it runs desperately down the street. Afterwards, Raphael leaves the kitchen and tries to explain what happened to the owner of the diner, but just then, Leonardo throws a kunai from the top of the building to get his attention. He tries to run away, but Leo throws more of them to block the passage, but it's no use and the Night Watcher escapes. In the middle of the traffic, Raphael starts jumping on top of the vehicles, but is followed by Leonardo, who lunges towards him to stop him. The two collide on the stairs of the building, but Rafa manages to escape and climbs to the roof. Leo also climbs the ladder and continues to chase the Night Watcher across the rooftops. However, when the vigilante reaches a building he can't jump from, he can only face his brother. Leonardo tells the Night Watcher that this is not the right way to do justice, without knowing that he is his brother in disguise. Rafa is enraged by his lecture, pulls out his two chains and tries to hit Leo, but he manages to dodge the blows. Rafa then throws off the chains and decides to fight with his fists. He throws several blows at Leonardo, who manages to dodge and block almost all of them, but is hit by a punch right in the middle of the face. He pulls himself together and continues to dodge the blows, until in a moment of distraction, Leo hooks him and knocks the vigilante down, who also loses his mask. As he approaches him, Leonardo finally discovers that he is his brother. Raphael says he's tired of obeying his orders and prefers to fight crime on his own, but Leo reprimands him and says that if he continues to act like this, he'll risk his family's safety. Rafa doesn't want to hear any more and pulls out his daggers to fight his brother. Left with no choice, Leonardo draws his sword and the two begin an insane duel. Raphael moves his daggers and strikes with his kicks, but Leonardo takes advantage of the reach of his swords to defend and counterattack. However, this only infuriates his brother, who begins to attack more violently. The two then clash swords and fight it out. However, Raphael manages to break Leonardo's swords and knocks him to the ground. Just as he was about to deliver the final blow, Rafa realizes the mistake he has made and rushes from the scene. At that moment, Leonardo gets up, but is hit by a tranquilizer dart. In front of him, the stone warriors appear and capture him. At the same moment, Raphael hears his brother scream and runs to save him, but it's too late and Leo is taken away. Rafa returns to his hideout and tells Master Splinter everything that has happened. Without wasting any more time, the whole group decides to rescue Leonardo and save New York. Hours later, at the top of Winta's building, everything is being prepared for the joining of the Kikon stars and the opening of the portal. Meanwhile, the entire clan of ninjas gathers to prevent any intruders from trying to disrupt the ritual. At that moment, Casey appears in front of the building wearing Michelangelo's mask and tries to distract the leader of the ninjas, while April and the turtles invade the building. Minutes later, Kikon's stars finally unite and a bolt of lightning is fired at the tower, opening the portal. Around it, Winters put all the monsters in cells to be taken back to their world. However, in one of them, there is not the last monster, but Leonardo. When he realizes what has happened, Winters confronts his stone generals, but they reveal that they did it because they don't want to lose their immortality with this ritual. Meanwhile, the Ninja Turtles and their friends fight against the army of ninjas. They manage to make their way into the tower, but the ninjas continue to pursue them. At that moment, Casey remembers the building's security system and knocks another Greek vase out of the room, which causes the doors to slam shut. Inside, Raphael finds Leonardo in one of the cells and frees his brother. Just then, Winters is thrown from the top of the building by his generals towards the group. He recovers from the blow and explains to everyone that his plan is not to attack the world, but to save it by sending the monsters back through the portal. The clan of ninjas appears at that moment and decides to help Winters complete his objective. They then rush off to find the 13th monster, along with Casey and April, while the Ninja Turtles unite to face the 4 stone generals. The battle intensifies and more monsters start coming out of the portal. At that moment, Winters and Master Splinter fight them and send them back through the passage to buy time. The situation gets worse and worse, but the turtles continue to fight. Leonardo confronts the swordsman general, but he hits him with a kick, which throws the ninja into a glass stand. Fortunately, Leo realized that the stand was full of swords and armed himself with all of them to face the statue. Meanwhile, Raphael fights the leader of the generals, who recognizes the ninja's skill and invites him to join his team. Rafa doesn't accept the offer and throws his enemy away. The quartet continues to fight the stone generals, but Master Splinter realizes that they need to close the portal as soon as possible. The turtles then team up and strike the generals, who are thrown towards the passage. Soon afterwards, however, the stone warriors return, as the portal is still open. Fortunately, just at that moment, Casey and April arrive by car and bring the last monster with them. The giant creature ends up being thrown at the stone warriors and they all enter the portal, which finally closes forever. Thanks to the heroes, the ritual was completed and Winters was finally no longer immortal. He thanks everyone for helping him and then his body disintegrates. The next day, Master Splinter keeps Winters' mask in his room, as a tribute to the noble warrior's sacrifice. Raphael also asks him to keep his, as proof that he will no longer act as the Nightwatcher. Later, he reunites with his 3 brothers and together, the Ninja Turtles return to patrolling the streets at night, fighting crime and saving all the residents of New York City once again. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.